The trouble starts. Okay. If you were to ask any gas contractors, written records, as all you had. Okay. So the last thing we learned, we were mamish in the middle of a line. We were learning what does it mean, kol yimei ani royim. This was the residual information that we got from the Sefer Ben Sira, and the days of an Oisher is happy. So the Gemara says one of the things is someone who's a dietic tzara, which Rashi says a wump shot. He's a pessimist. He's always worried what's going to be. He suffers his whole life. With Toiv Leiv Mishpatama, Toiv Leiv doesn't worry so much. We'll worry about it later. I'm not so worried about the tomorrow. It's a zangit. And so he always has a good, because the other guy's always stressed out. I'm the dietic tzara guy. I'm always stressed out. But Toiv Leiv Mishpatama. What do you mean all the days of an ani are bad? What are you talking about? Well, where everybody, everybody has geschmack of food on Shabbos and Yom Tov. What's wrong? When Kuf Aleph Amar Shmuel, the Gemara, it's like even an ani who suddenly starts eating a lot on Shabbos suffers like Shmuel, because Shmuel said, "Shinu vest chilas chaylim ha'ayim." If you don't eat a whole week and then suddenly on Shabbos eat a lot, we know what happens. You end up spending most of your day in a secluded place. But someone who's an usher who eats royally all week long, so he'll be able to enjoy the Shabbos food and not get sick from it. Tanur Rabban. This is a very interesting halacha that we probably need a lot of help on. Because Hakare Pasuk shall shir shirim va'oisa oisai kimin zemer. If you read Pasuk and Shir Shirim, let's read Rashi because we need to be accurate over here. Shekara benegina acheres. Rather than using the trup, you use a Baruch Levin niggin to sing the words of Shir Shirim. She'ena nakadba. With a niggin that's not I'll be the trup. Va'oisa kimin shir, but it's like a song. Avapi shemesh shemishir shirmu. Even though it's like your grandfather, like I'm Pearl. No. The ikre shir, nevertheless, also la soizik mean shir elo b'kriyasai. So right away, we should be aware that does that mean you're not allowed to sing the gunim that are psukim? How you talking? So that's the pashtus is that's what it's saying. The Yad Ramah clears could be if you're not just doing it for entertainment, you're doing it to Mishabech, to Rabbani Shloim, or you're doing it to create a Cyrus, could be it would be allowed, which is probably what we rely on today. They don't sing what? Oh, by Kedusha. Oh, because it's a pasuk. Mm-hmm. Okay, Lubavitch does like that, right? The Hakare pasuk, the base mishtois below manai, and if you read a pasuk in a Beit HaMishta, in a party, not at the time that it's supposed to be read, and Gemara is going to tell us when that is, maybe Ra Loilam, it brings bad to the world. The Torah sits by Velas, wears a sackcloth, and stands in front of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Your children made me kikinar, like an instrument, like a piece of entertainment. What does Rashi say? He's partying. He makes his entertainment with divrei Torah. The Karib Psukim B'Kol Ram l'sachik b'hem b'nei Mishnah. He reads Psukim B'Kol Ram to entertain people. I don't get how that entertainment works. But it could be like, but whatever it is, they're using it not for Torah, they're using it for entertainment. Avo im oimroi bismanoi al hamishta. But if they say at the right time al hamishta, for instance, kegoin shu yomtiv the noitel kois biyadai v'oimer lav diver hagadu psukim in yonishol yoim. That's a different story. That's maybe toivelayim. So when you're singing the gunim, like the gunim of yomtiv, for the covenant of Yom Tov, that for sure is allowed. So Mustama, when we sing songs nowadays, it's not just singing it for entertainment, it's singing it to give shirs for shishbachas to the Rebbeinu Shalom and to be ma'oras. I'm sorry, and that's also what he means. Also to me means misragish. Zog to Gemara weiter. Amar law, biti. So what did the Rebbeinu answer back? Biti mantaya the toida, mantaya the tochter. So what do you want when they're eating and drinking? So what should they be busy with? What should they talk about? In Bali Mikrain, if they know Torah Shabbat. Yasku b'Torah u'v'nevimu v'ksuvim. In Bali Mishnain, Yasku b'Mishnah b'Alochsu v'Agadosh. They should shmooze learning about what they know. In Bali Talmutein, Yasku b'Ilchas Pesach b'Pesach, b'Ilchas Atzeres b'Atzeres, b'Ilchas Chag b'Chag. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Hey, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, does the article bring down like a psak halacha from anybody? Why he doesn't comment on it? Because the only thing that the Masechta brings down is the Yad Ramah learns that maybe it's only if you're not doing it for shir or to be the shragish. But the one reason with a doichik, because it's very widely accepted. Although actually, if you remember, Rabbi Noble held you were not allowed to listen to tapes. Remember that? Rabbi Noble held you were not allowed to listen to music. Yeah, he says unless you're driving, you're tired, so then you can listen to music. But some of the Rabbi Noble used to tell the you're not allowed to listen to music. Remember that? I didn't have Rabbi Noble, but I knew of him. You know, boy was so happy I didn't have Rabbi Noble when he said you can't listen to tapes. Okay, Zok to Gemara weiter. Hey, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Chananya. If you read a pasuk at the right time, then maybe toiv l'olam. Shneimar v'davar b'itoi ma toiv. So it could be referring to it. Rashi said on Yom Tov you sing psukim of Yom Tov, and on Shabbos you sing psukim of Shabbos, and at a time where it's relevant, you read and learn and sing those relevant psukim. If you remember, loicha shalamaka is you put some salve on the makkah, and you say one of the things quoted was using Shem Hashem. So Rabbi Yochanan, it's only a problem if you spit on it first. So I guess that's when you spit on it that helps it heal. So Rashi, Shekain derech malachishim, the people who are malachish on their wounds, l'rakek koydem malachish. First they spit, and then they say they're lachish. In other words, they spray and then they say. Also lahaskir pasuk ala lechisha. You're not allowed to say a pasuk in the lechisha. V'yesh lechashim. There's certain lechashim. Shedarken l'rakek harein. The derek is first to say the lachash, and then to spit. V'omer oison b'loshen las, and they say the pasuk with the lachash not in loshen kodesh but in a foreign language. Umaskirin lam Shem b'loshen las, and they also say Shem Hashem, but not the Hebrew version, but the English version or a different language, like God Almighty or something, right? We Amalei Rabbi the mutter, and Rabbi said that would be mutter. The ein aser ela loichesh achar harakika. The only time where it's aser is if first you spray and then you say. The nearest shemaskir Hashem al harakika, because it almost seems and looks and sounds like you're being maskir Hashem on your saliva, and that's not appropriate. And also, it's only usher if it's b'loshen hakodesh. Alva b'las, it would not be usher. So it's only usher if it's roikik ba lefi she'ed maskir and shem shemayim al harakik. It's not appropriate to call shem shemayim on saliva. Itmar Rav Omar afilu nega tzaras. Zokt Rashi afilu loichesh kra the less bay shem shemayim. So you didn't say. Rather, you said negatzeras kisi abodam. If that's what you said, so there was no Shem Hashem. The less b'Shem Shemaim al Rakika is still going to be awesome. Shekar negatzeras kisi abodam vuva lakayin l'Shem Refuah still ein loy chelik loylam hapa. Even Stava Pasuk that has no shaykhis to anything, it will also be ein chelik loylam. But afilu vayikra Moshe she'ein loy chayli. It's not even talking about anything to do with the wound or a nega or anything at all. Then you roy l'lach shalamaka. It has nothing to do with the makkah. Vein maskir l'shem refuah. You're not even saying the lechisha l'shem refuah. Alakasavarhu linotzel b'schus divrei Torah shu maskir. Tom, he's saying, since I was mentioning divrei Torah, maybe that schus will help me get healed. It's still also the lechisha. You're not allowed to do that. Tanu Rabbanan. Sachin, the normal way to do things is your sachin, you schmear, and then umamashmashin b'vnei ma'ayim b'Shabbos. And then you massage. I guess you smear some oil on it, and then you massage it. So Rashi umamashmashin b'ma'ayim shel choyle b'Shabbos. Ve'ein bekach mishum refuah. It's not refuah. The sicha iskis l'shtiyah. Smearing is like drinking, and therefore there's no isser like a medicine on Shabbos. They used to say these potions, I don't know what they used to say, that would freeze, it would freeze these dangerous snakes and scorpions to stop them from doing any damage. So, but it's something that people do without refuah as well. Right? People moisturize their hands, right? You do these things without. They freeze. If you make them freeze, it's like you're capturing them. Rashi, that's not considered. It's not considered having captured. Zog to Gemara. Umavirin kli al gabi ha'ayim b'Shabbos. You're allowed to put a keli on your eye on Shabbos. Somehow that helps it heal. I don't understand how it worked. Rashi says shekein derech litin klei matches ala ayin. People with a metal kelim on their eye, to cool off their eye if it was burning. I've never seen that being done. Inami, they wrap a ring around his eye. Like I'm not sure what this means, but it was some type of thing that they did to help with an issue that they had with their eye. The only type of keli you're allowed to put on the eye on Shabbos is a keli that's not muksa. If it's a keli that's muksa, osir, then it would be osir. Zok Rashi, but if it's muksa, it would not be allowed. Now they asked, why would it not be allowed if it's muksa? It's a klisha malach l'isser is going to be mutter l'tzorich gufay u'makoymai, and you need it l'tzorich gufay. That's what they ask. So he says over here. It's actually at the bottom of this stuff over here. He says it over here. L'chayir kasha sherigam klisha malach l'isser mutter l'tat l'tzorich gufay. So the Pri Megadim says, Al Pi Mavur Barashi, that the time of the heter here is, since the derech is to put a klimakis on his eye, therefore it's normal to do that, and people won't be able to tell you're doing it with refuah. So the problem is, people will think you're being over muksa, because they won't know that you're doing it for refuah. But if the klisha malach l'isser, everyone knows l'shem refuah, and then it would be mutter. So l'chen heter hu rak b'chli anitol. I'm sorry, forget. Davke if it's non muksa shows loynik a shoyse can tzorch refuah. You can't tell him to go tzorch refuah because you're allowed to put the keli there. But if it's a klisha malach l'isser, you're doing it tzorch refuah because he needs it for his eye. So then it's obvious to people that he's doing it for refuah, and then it wouldn't be allowed. Okay, so zok to Gemara weiter. It would be usher. And the ain shoyalin bidvar shedim b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to ask shedim on Shabbos. Rashi says bidvar shedim. What does that mean? Shekein oisin. This is what people do. Kisha oivdim shum dover. If they lost something, so alam b'maisa shedim, they would ask shedim. I don't know exactly how you do that. V'heim magidlam, and they would tell you where you lost it. Instead of saying lakot and you could do a lakot shedim money. Maybe they give you a better deal. The Osir Lasish b'Shabbos mishum tzechavtzba. You're not allowed to do it on Shabbos because you're not allowed to do like your personal business on Shabbos. So it's also to do on Shabbos, but b'choil is mutter. And the Yosy said af b'choil is osir. It's even osir to deal with shedim b'choil. And Rashi says why? Lishol b'shedim kid maforish lakamon mishum sakon. It's a sakon to get involved with shedim. Zok to Gemara Omar Rafuna halacha Rabbi Yosy. You see, it's a shaila if you gorish the ein or not. Halacha Rabbi Yosy. Meaning that even b'choil it's also to be shoyel b'shedim. And the reason why Rabbi Yosy answered it is because it's a sakana to have to do with Shadim. He had Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef, the Ivla ba'arza, he got swallowed up in a cedar tree, this Avad Lanisa, and he had a nace, and Poka Arza Upalte. The cedar tree split open and let him out. So there's actually a shayla in the Rishonim. Is that what the tzara was? The shade caused that he should be swallowed up inside a tree, and the nace is that he was freed, or maybe he was in a sakana because of some type of damage that the shade would have done to him, and to save him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu had him swallowed up in the tree, and then when the danger subsided, the tree freed him. Tanu Rabbanan, Sakin, Sochin, Umemashmashin, Bibnei Ma'ayin B'Shabbos, Uvilvad Shlo Yasa Kederech Sho Oisa B'Chol. You shouldn't do it the way it's done B'Chol. Heichi Ovid, what do? Rab Chama Bar Abchina Omar, Soch, first you smear, the Achagach Memashmish, and Rabbi Yochanan Omar, Soch Umemashmish B'Vasachas. You could do it together. The main thing is that you shouldn't be Memashmish first and then Sach. That would not be allowed. As Rashi says, Soch v'yachach b'mashmish haveshinui de b'choil derech l'mashmish v'achakach los. So therefore, as long as you don't do it in that fashion, it will be fine. Tanu Rabbanan, Sorei Shemen v'Sorei Beitzim. These were also talked about Shadim. Mutar nishal b'hen. You're allowed to ask them. You know why? Mipnei shemechazvim. Because it's useless. They lie anyway. Let's see what this means. Who are you asking? What are you asking? Zogt the Heilige Rashi. Sorry, Shemen. Yes, Maisa Shadim. So it's going back to Maisa Shadim. Sheshoy Alan al Yidei Shemen. They ask through oil. I'm not sure exactly what the process was. But Karlu, they would call it Sorei Shemen. The masters of Shemen. V'hainu Sorei Boyhen. V'yesh Sheshoylim b'shvayferish albeya, with the skin of an egg. V'karlo Sorei Beyim. Elishem Mechazvin lakach nimnu milishal behem. The reason why we don't ask from them is because they're not going to help you. They're going to give you bad information. Loichishin al shemen shabakli. You're allowed to be loichash al shemen shabakli, but ain't loichna al shemen shabayad. But not if it's on your hand. Why? So this is not saying what you're allowed to do. The normal way that it was done was they would be loichish on shemen in a keli, and people would not be loichish on the shemen shabayad because that's not how you spoke to the shade. Therefore, sochin mishemen shabayad, you'd be allowed to be sochin shemen shabayad. Why? Because that's not what they do for the shadim. Then sochin mishemen shabakli, because that is what they do for the shadim. Let's look at Rashi. Loichishin al shemen shabakli. Oisin ma'isa shadim. People who did ma'isa shadim, darka lilchash al shemen shabakli. They would say some lachisha when there's oil in the keli. Again, I don't understand exactly how this works. The ein darken lilchash al shemen shabayad she'enim oil doesn't work. Lafichach adam yochel losach al yadoi mishemen shabayad, because that's not the derech to bring shadim. Vein lochash, you don't have to worry shemen naseh b'ma'aseh shadim. The ein bois hakadosh hashade, because this doesn't work for the shadim. The shadim are makbid on protocol. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta ikloi lahu shpisa. He arrived at a certain inn where he was going to stay. Aisile mishcha b'mona. They brought him oil in a keli. Shaf, he smeared the oil on him, and suddenly his skin blew up. Nafkan leitzimchi ba'pei. Some terrible. It seems like his face swelled up or something, or he had boils on his. He had boils, so it caused him serious problems. Rashi says samechin are ababuos, which are boils. So Novak l'shuk, he went out to the shuk with his boils on his face. There was this woman who knew about kshofim and shadim. She knew how these things work. Amra, she said, Zika the chemes kachazina. I see the wind of chemes, which is rucha shel oishe sheit sheshmoi chemes ani roi b'fanecha shechas that got you. Is it chemes? Am I reading it right? Is it chamos? Chamos. I see the chamos. I see the Yitzhar on your head. I see the chamos on your head. So what did she do? Of the Leimil Savitzi, she knew how to work with shadim, and she did her own abracadabra hocus pocus, and she healed him. So it's trying to. The Gemara is illustrating how it's not worthwhile getting involved with shadim. Amar le Rab Abba le Rabba bar Mori. Ksivit says, "Kol hamachla asher samti b'mitzrayim lo osam alach." Means you're not going to get sick in the first place. And then it says, Kanei Hashem Arfecha. Break the Gemara, Bechime Acher Shaloi, some, right? Asher Samti B'Mitzrayim. Why? Why is that? So the more makas that they didn't put them, the more we're immune from. Oh wow! So why didn't the Rosh give them cancer and heart disease and diabetes? You dash in the pasuk minei. Shenemar vayomer im shemoy tishma l'kol Hashem Elokecha im tishma lo yasem. If you listen to Kadosh Baruch Hu, then you're not going to have any machla. But from lo yishma tasem, but even though Hashem is going to give you machla to punish you, even though you deserve the punishment, Hashem's still going to heal us. So we have a lot of Gemaras to talk about when Rabbi Eliezer died. We recently had, when Rabbi Eliezer was sick and his Talmidim came to visit him, he told them, you guys, none of you are going to live, die a normal death. You're all going to die violent deaths because you haven't come to me in a while, because he was in Cherem, remember, and they sort of said, we didn't come, we didn't have a chance to come, so he was upset with them. So we're getting more information about what happened when Rabbi Eliezer was dying. So there's a tremendous chema in the Welt. Rashi says, what did he mean when he said that? He meant al atzmai hayomer shekas alav amakim b'chvit chelyoy. There's a big chema on me, Rabbi Eliezer said, because you see I'm sick. His chilu hein boichin. They all started to cry. Rabbi Kiva mesachik. Rabbi Kiva was laughing. Rabbi Kiva always laughed when everybody else was crying. Right? He laughed when he saw the shul come out of the base called Kodeshim. So he laughed. Amr, they told him, Lama atam mesachik. What do you find so funny about our suffering, the suffering of our Rebbe? Amr len mipnei ma atam boichin. Why are you crying? As a good Jew, he answered a question with a question. Amr loy Evsher. Sefer Torah, Sharu B'Tzar, V'lo Nifka, Rabbi Eliezer, our Sefer Torah, is suffering, and we shouldn't cry. Amalem lekachani misachik. That's exactly why I'm laughing. Shekol's man shani roya Rebbe. Rabbi Eliezer was an extremely successful person. He was very similar to Chaskel Zayin. So whatever he touched turned to sold or to gold, right? She'ein yain machmitz. His wine never became vinegar. Vein tishtani loike. His flax never got damaged. Vein shimnei mavish, his oil never went bad. Vein duvshani madvish, and his honey never went bad. That means he has everything in his life is going for him. Amarti, I was concerned, Shema chas v'sholem kibel Rabbi oilomai. Maybe he got all his schar, and therefore maybe the Maboy is not going to have it so good. And he said, I'm happy because I know he's going to go to oil Rabbi. So Rabbi Eliezer says, I don't understand. What did I do wrong that you're happy that I'm getting punished for? Did I miss anything? My abal aver that you consider me, so you're happy I'm getting punished for my avers? Amaloi, Rabbi Kiva said, Lima the Tani Rabbeinu, Rabbi, you taught us. Adam ain't tzaddik v'aretz asher yasatoy v'layachta. I don't think you did any affairs, but you told me that there's no such thing as a person who didn't do affairs. So whatever those affairs are, as small as they are, I'm happy that you're not going to suffer in olam haba because any stress you're supposed to have, you will be yotzei in other words. Tana Rabbanon, Kishachala Rabbi Eliezer, when Rabbi Eliezer got sick, Nichnesu Arbos Kainim Levakroi, Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Shua, Rabbi Eliezer Ben Azariah, Rabbi Kiva. And then Rabbi Tarfon said first, Yomar Toiv Atali Yisrael, you, Rebbe, are better for Klal Yisrael, Mitiba Shal Geshonim, like a drop of rain. Shetiba Shal Geshonim, Ba'il Mazeh, it only helps us by the Mazeh. Rebbe, but you're helping us by the Mazeh, Uba Ilabah. You have an impact on both. And then Rabbi Shua Amar, better than the cycle of the Chama. Shagalgal Chama ba'olam hazeh, Rebbe ba'olam hazeh u'ba'olam haba. And Rashi says that in the olam haba we're not going to have the sun anymore. The ma'oros that we have now are no longer going to be working. It's going to be a different system. And then the Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah Amar, Toivat Yisrael Yosher me ava'im, better than parents. She'ava'im ba'olam hazeh, Rebbe ba'olam hazeh u'ba'olam haba. And then the Rabbi Kiva Amar, Taviv and Yisurin. Yisurim are awesome. Why? Of course, because they patter up somebody's affairs. Amar lahem, samchuni ve'eshba divi Rabbi Kiva. Help me up a little bit. I want to hear what Rabbi Kiva had to say. So out of all the comments that the Talmidim made, it was Rabbi Kiva's comment that drew Rabbi Eliezer the most. Ve'eshma divrei Rabbi Akiva talmidai. She'amar chaviv and yisur. Amar lo Akiva zu minayin lo. Rabbi Lezer said, where did you get this from? That chaviv and yisurin. Amar mikra ani darish. I know it's from a pasuk. It says, Ben Shtem Esrei Shana Menashe b'Molchai. Menashe was a bad king. He was the son of Achav, who was a good king. So he was the son of Chizkiah, who was a good king. So it was the 12th year of his Malchus. V'chamishim v'chamesh shanim Malach b'Yerushalayim. And he was a Melech in Yerushalayim for 55 years. V'yasar Rabbeinu Hashem. And he did bad things. He did bad things. Uchsiv, it says, turning on to Kuf Aleph on the pace. Gam Eila Mishalei Shloima Asher Itiku Anshe Chizkiah Melech Yehuda. These are also Mishalim, so this is in Mishli. These are also Mishalim that the people of Chizkiah Melech Yehuda said over. As Rashi says, Hainu Talmidei Chizkiah. And it says Anshe Chizkiah means the Talmidim of Chizkiah. Kedekayim Alon Bashutim Bavavatra. Chizkiah Sayatoi calls for Mishli. Chizkiah and his associates, they wrote Mishli. Michlal the Chizkiah Hayam Alamed Lakoil. So clearly Chizkiah was someone, a Rebbe who taught all of Klal Yisrael. Uchadamoran, not Cherev al Pesach Beis HaMedrash. She got the entire door to learn. So if he got the entire door to learn, what's the likelihood that he also learned with his son? For sure he learned with his son. V'chol shekain Shalom Menashe B'noi Limei. I'm sorry? I guess not. They wrote over some Shalom that Shlomo Melech said, but they recorded it. So Zog to Gemara v'Chizkiah Melech Yehuda l'chol ha'olam kulay limei Torah u'lo Menashe b'noi lo limei Torah. Ella, nevertheless, mikol Torah shetorach boy, all the work that Chizkiah the tzaddik put into Menashe u'mikol amal she'amal boy, nevertheless lo ha'aleyu lemutav. It didn't help him. It didn't help him. He didn't go in the right path. Eli Yisurin, Shenema vayidaber Hashem el Menashe vel Amoy. He knows whatever Chizkiah taught, Menashe didn't convince him. You know what convinced him to do tshuva? It was Yisurin that convinced Menashe ultimately to do tshuva. So that's why Yisurim is greater, Rabbi Akiva said, because the biggest Rebbe can't impact you as much as Yisurin could impact you. And here's the story. Shenema vayidaber Hashem el Menashe vel Amoy. Hashem kept on telling Menashe to do tshuva. And they refused to listen to their Rebbeinu Shalom to do tshuva. So Hashem made him fall into the hands of the officers of Melech Asher, the Syrian king. Menashe, and they captured him. Bechuchim, I don't know what chuchim are, but it's something of the trap. Does he say what chuchim are? Hooks. Oh yeah, they put hooks into his mouth. They dragged him like a dead cow. And then they tied him up in copper chains. And they dragged him to Babel. And when he really got into a lot of problems, he davened to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Now the story is a little longer, and in the Tziyonim he brings an extended version of the story, exactly what they did to torture him. Ukehatzer Amar Heichi la'avid. What should I do? Nikarya lakadosh baruch hu. I'm sorry. Uvechatar yesh loizav ma ovid le. What did they do to him? Shavdu bedudid in the chashta. They put him into a big copper pot. Vishadi nur tusay, and they lit him on fire. So they were literally cooking in a pot. He found himself literally in hot water. And he was suffering. It was getting hot in there. Amar, he said, Heichi li'avid. What should I do? Nikaya lakadosh baruch hu. Should I call Hashem to save me? He's angry at me. So if he's angry at me, he's not going to answer me. Nikaya lavoid zara, and I should call my getchkis. Less b'mamasha. Deep down inside, I know they can't do a thing for me. Ma'asa. So what did Menashe do? Kara legedolim. He called the great getchkis. V'loy anuya. They didn't do anything for him. Kara lektanim. He called the small getchkis. Loy anuya. So after he ran out of places to call, Amar Rebbeinu Shalom. Im anisali. If you answer me and you save me, it will be good. V'loy amina. If not, I'm going to say, Iu nami kaveseyo. the Rebbeinu Shalom is no more powerful, no better than the Getchkes. They couldn't help me. He couldn't help me. I'm sorry. Yeah,
he's threatening.
So what he wasn't even coming with tshuva. He was coming with a taina. Biyad v'yataloi v'yashiveu l'machusoi. The king had rachmanis on him of Bavel, of Ashur, and he actually let him free. So that's what he did. He pulled a stunt by making this sharp argument, and and then v'yadam and Asher ke'Hashem hu elakim. There he learned that the Rebbeinu Shalom is the emes Eivishter. So Yisur they can teach you what nothing else can teach you. Your father could be Moshe enough to teach you everything, but it doesn't come till little Yisur. Tanya Rabban, Shloisha Bo Ba'alila. 3 people came with a Zatanya to the Rebbeinu Shalom, similar to what we just quoted from Menashe. Elohim, these are them: Cain, Esav, and Menashe. Cain Dechsiv, Cain said, Gadol Avoini Minasoi. My Avera is my Avera too big that it cannot be forgiven? Amar lefanav Rebbeinu Shalom, Plum Gadol Avoini Mishishim Riboy, 600,000 male adults. That will do the egel. Could my Aver possibly be worse than the egel? And you were Michael them, so you'd have to be Michael me. So he's coming with a time. Esav Dechsiv, he told Yaakov, Avi. So he had a time. How could you say that you only have one bracha? I believe Rashi comments on this. Bracha achasi, v'chi ein lach bracha yoser cheshuva yoser. He had a victorious response, but also like, and it worked for him. And Menashe betchila kara laloy haisharbi to the getchkes uvesoiv kara lalakev voisav. So he did the same type of type. Even if you say Shem Hashem, you read out the Yud Vavke, that is also going to make you ein loy chelek lo olam haba. Zog to Gemara Tana uvegvulin uveloshen oga. Let's see what this means. Tana we learned. Ki amin the Haiges Hashem, because we have 2 pshatim in Rashi. Ki amin the Haiges Hashem v'si yosef ein chelek lo olam haba. That's only begvulin. Aval b'mikdash loy sharei b'shem hayim avarchin. If they did this in the base of Mikdash, then it wouldn't be a problem. Because only the Gvul is a problem, but in the base of Mikdash, you're supposed to say Shem Hashem. That's how it's supposed to be done. Uveloshen Aga, Zokt Rashi, Afilu b'Mikdash loy. If you don't say it in Lashon HaKodesh, you use some other Lashon, then even in the base of Mikdash, if you use Hashem's name in that fashion, Ein Lechelek Ladam Abba. Lashon Aga is a laz. She'ein Hoige b'Siyoisa v'Lashon HaKodesh Shalanu, Elashar lo Yazin. Aga Lashon Belage Safa, Moiriverim. So Zokt Rashi, this is a Chumrah. It's a Chumrah if you use a Lashon Laz. So if you use a Lashon Kodesh, then in the base of Mikdash it's no problem, and Begvulin there's a Chiyuv Misa. But in the Chilek Lamba, that is. But if you used a foreign Lashon, and even in the base of Mikdash, in the Chilek Lamba. That's the first drop. Lashon Acher is Aga Lashon Uga. It means a group of people who are speaking. Gvulin Kari Chutz L'Mikdash. And Gvulin is referred to if you're not in the base of Mikdash. But also the fire is Sham Ben Arboim Mishtayim. There you're not allowed to articulate the Shem of Hashem, that's 42 letters. Lashon Aga Chutz L'Mikdash. The Avad Ein Loi Chelek. And if he did, he has no Chelek L'Mikdash. So here it's saying, even though we're saying the Beis HaMikdash it's mutter and in Mechutz it's aser, even Mechutz it's only aser in a different language. But even in Lashon HaKodesh, even out of the Beis HaMikdash wouldn't have this chiyuv to lose it out of the. So again, the 2 starting in the Machlokes are Bechutz L'Beis HaMikdash. Sai Lashon HaKodesh and Sai Lashon Laz is going to be chayiv. You lose your Lamabah. And in the Beis HaMikdash, B'Lashon Laz Ein L'Chelek Lamabah. So that's a big chomer. Or do you say, no, the only time Ein L'Chelek Lamabah is if it's balaz chutz lemikdash, but if it's balosh nakodesh, even chutz lemikdash, you won't lose your olam haba. Regardless, I don't think we should try either method. The Mishnah says there were 3 malachim and 4 joytis that lost their chelak in olam haba. Taner Rabban, one of them was Yeravam. Where did Yeravam's name come from? Sheriva Am. Rashi Sheribet es Yisrael v'Shpilam. He brought Klal Yisrael down by being machti them, by putting up the 2 agolos. Dover Acher, Yeravam, she'asa meriva ba'am. He made a fight within Klal Yisrael themselves. Why? Rashi says Rivim Elom Eli caused fights. But Asik avodas kachavim. Many people succumbed and did avodas zarah. But there were many people who said, "No, you're not allowed to do avodas zarah." So he created fights. Okay, Dover Acher. There's another shot. She'asa Yeravam she'asa meriva ben Yisrael avim shel Shamayim. He made a fight between Klal Yisrael and the Rabbanim Shalom by being machsham with avodas zarah. Then his last name is Ben Nevat. Yeravam Ben Nevat. What does Ben Nevat means? Ben Shenibet. He's someone who saw, who looked, but he didn't see properly. What does that mean? Rashi. He thought he had a good look. He knew the future. He didn't realize he misunderstood the future and he's making a mistake. We'll see exactly what it is that he saw that he misinterpreted. Who Nevat? Who Micha? If you remember who Micha was the priest of avodas zarah. When he was a baby, he was a brick in the wall of Mitzrayim, and Moshe told Hashem, "How can you let the babies put into walls?" So Hashem said, "Whoever's in the wall, he's better. He should be in the wall because they're bad guys. You want to see? Take one out. You'll see what will happen with him." Who Sheva ben Bichri? He is Sheva ben Bichri. Zok Gemara Novat Shenibet v'Leira, as we said a moment ago. Micha shenismachmech v'binyan. He got smashed from binyan. What does that mean, Dr. Rashi? Either Shal Mitzrayim. He was the baby who was smashed inside the wall. He was placed in the wall in place of a block. If they don't come up with enough bricks, right, they have to put their own straw. The Mitzrayim use the little babies as blocks. Don't worry. They're just killing the weeds. I know for a fact. They would be terrible Rishoyim. If you don't believe me, Tanasa, you could test it out. Take one of the kids out, and you'll see its future. And look what happened. Lishnachin is another shot. That Yeravam ben Nevat was very involved in the construction industry. And this Machmech Osak Bebinyan Achenasama. Kedarminan Kol Isaac Bebinyan Mismaskin. If you're in construction, you end up falling apart. It's very hard on your body. What is his real name? Sheva ben Bichri Shmo. Taner Rabbanim. Shloisha nivtu v'leiro. 3 people thought they interpreted what's going to happen in the future, but they misread it very badly. By the way, Nevat, the Achitophel was the person who gave eitzes to Avshalom to help him fight with David. And what happened at the end is when he saw Avshalom didn't follow his eitzah, he knew his goose was cooked and he killed himself. V'stagnine Paroi and the stargazers of Paroi. So let's see them. Nabat Ra Eish Sheyotzis Mayamasa. He had a dream that fire was coming out of his aver over there. I guess he spent too much time thinking about it, so he saw fire coming out of it. Who saw? He thought, "Oh, there's fire. It must be Ihu Molech. I will become a king, and therefore I can get away with anything." V'lohi, he was wrong. It was Yeravam who did nafak minei. What he saw really, it was coming out of his aver, meaning his children, and in fact, it was his children. Yeravam became a king. So Rashi, who's over you, Malach lekachnis amei Sheva ben Bichri, the kibbutz kol Yisrael leilav. Sheva ben Bichri gathered everybody together to rebel against David. Well, you're right to Limlech Mikra, and he fell flat because he was never intended to be the king. He misread the cards. Achitophel Ra Tzara Shazar al Amosai. He saw that his aver got saras. Who suffered? That's a sign that Iu Malach, he will be the king. V'loi, it wasn't true. You know who became royalty? Basheva Bita. His daughter was Basheva, who David Melech married. Who did Nafka Minah Shloima, and Shloima Melech came out. Now the question is, how does tzaras on someone's eber indicate that it'll be a melech? So the Mefarshim say that a melech is generally secluded from the people. He's isolated from the people. So too, someone with tzaras is isolated. So that's why that was interpreted so. Now, how was where do you say Achitophel made a move to become the king? He was just giving Avshalom mitzvahs. His cheshbon was, he'll support Avshalom. Avshalom will kill David, but then ultimately Avshalom will get killed. Why? He was mizana with his father's pilakshim. He violated his father's wives. So then he would get killed, and then who would be left? He would be holding it. He would become the king. That was his miscalculation. What really happened was his Eidikol Shlomo Melech became the king. What about Stakni Pari? Later on, when the Eden were out of Mitzrayim, and Moshe Rabbeinu hit the rock, the Torah tells us, Hema Meimeriva. These are the Meimeriva. What does that mean? Hema, Sharo Stakni Pari. Pari saw that Klal Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu was going to be taken down with water. V'to. So therefore, they said, how do we eliminate the minhag shel Yisrael, the manhag of Klal Yisrael, throwing him into the water? But they didn't know that that was not the water that they were singing in their stars. It was referring to Meimeriva. So that's what it says. This is the mayim that you saw in the stars. You didn't interpret it properly. How do we know that these three people, Achitophel, Yerovam, and who's the third one? Doeg? Who's the third guy? Achitophel, Yerovam, and who's the third guy in the Mishnah? Bilam. How do we know they're not going to get Eilam Haba? Tichsiv vayhi b'davar hazeh. No, it's three malachim. Vayhi b'davar hazeh. Lechatos beis Yeravam ulahachid ulahashmid me'al pnei adam. So David HaMelech instructed Shlomo, you make sure that lahachid ulahashmid me'al pnei adam. You gotta eliminate him. Lahachid b'olam hazeh ulahashmid l'olam haba. No, this is not David. This is the Navi saying that he's going to be Tishmeter. Well, you see, the double lotion is to tell us that Yeravam did not have Olam Haba. Why was he Zach the Malchus? He wasn't such a good guy. The teretz is he gave Shlomo Musar, and we'll soon see what Musar Shlomo needed. So why was he punished? Because the Musar that he gave Shlomo was Barabba. This is how Yeravam lifted up his hand, not literally, but he gave him Musar. He attacked him, so to speak. Yad b'melech Shlomo, Bona as Hamalu. What happened was David HaMelech busted open many walls of Yerushalayim. You know why? So it would create easy access for people coming to be Oile Regel. Shlomo HaMelech filled in those holes. He built the walls back up. So in a way, he made it more difficult for people to be Oile Regel. Sagar as Peretz Ir David. He closed up the city that is far out open. Amar Loi, so Yeravam told him, David Avicha parts Pirtzes B'chayma Kidei Sheyalu Yisrael L'Regel. Your father opened up these openings because he wanted Klal Yisrael to be Oile Regel. You know why you closed it up? You closed it up there's a lot of pshatim in this, but one of the pshatim is that you wanted to force them to come through specific gates, not it should be wide open. And Rashi has many ways to explain why it would help Bas Pari, who was his wife. So Rashi says, one shot is if you control the entrances, then you can get each person to give tax because you could control who's going in and out. Lishnach he closed the gates. Vasam Migdal, he made a big tower. Labas Pare al Echad ben Asharim by one of the gates. And everybody would pass through that particular gate. Why? So they would all have to encounter her and then give her respect. So he was using Klal Yisrael to gratify and glorify his wife, the Baspiri. Nagri is whenever they're serving the king, paying taxes, doing work, so you're making them go this way and inconveniencing them. That's like working for the queen. It's not referring to Yerushalayim, it's referring to the Dalsish Hazor. He would lock it up. And he would keep the keys with him. So that means they couldn't open up the Beis Hamikdash the next morning until Shlomo HaMelech came back. But the problem is, the Melech only gets up at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. But they had to open up the Beis Hamikdash at the crack of dawn. They have to wait until the king comes. What you want them to have to pay off your wife so that she should slip the keys from you so that they can start in the Beis Hamikdash earlier. So that was his musar that he gave to Shlomo, but it was public. And that wasn't appropriate. So Zok to Gemara, what does it mean he did something very disrespectful? He took his tefillin off in front of Shlomo. That was very disrespectful, as Rashi says. He should have taken off his tefillin not in front of Shlomo. He didn't do it nonchalantly, and it was disrespectful. He bedafka did it in his face to show disrespect. The problem is when you take the tefillin off, your head is uncovered. It's not respectful to stand with your head uncovered in front of the king. He was using it to show that I'm not treating you like a king. Amar Nachman, Gazas a ruach shoyibay b'Yerovim. The gaiva that Yerovim had, that ultimately took him down. Shenema v'yemi Yerovim beliboy. Yerovim said to himself. Ata toshuv hamamlocha lebeis David. Now the malacha will come back to Beis David. Im yala ha'amazeh lasa izvachim b'beis Hashem b'Yerushalayim. Because what's going to happen? I'm Melech Yisrael. I don't have a right to sit in the Azara. So the Malchus is going to go back to Beis David because Klal Yisrael is going to come up bringing karbonos by Yom Tov to be Oyla Regel, Yerushalayim. Vishav Leiv HaAmazeh El Adonayim El Rechavam Melech Yehuda. Everyone's going to go back to a Rechavam, Varaguni, and they're going to kill me for creating a secondary Malchus. Vishavu El Rechavam Melech Yehuda, and they're going to go back to Rechavam Melech Yehuda. Amar, we learned. Gemiri, we know. Only Malchus Beis Yehuda has a right to sit in the Azar, meaning Yerovim couldn't. Keeping the Chazar Leila Rechavam, the Yosef, Vana Ka'imna, if we're there and they see Rechavam sitting and me standing, Savri Hamal Kavada. It'll be very clear that I'm an Evet, I'm not a Melech, because I cannot sit in the Azar. The Iyasivna, and if I sit down, it'll be worse than Morid B'Malchus Abai. The Katan, they'll kill me, I'll Morid B'Malchus. It's funny. He wasn't worried that he's sitting down in the Azara. But sitting down in the Azara is literally claiming that you're a Melech. There'd be a problem of Morid B'Malchus. The Ozlu Basrei, and they're going to go and follow Rechavam. That's what he was worried about. So that was his gaiva, that he didn't want to be second fiddle there. Miyad v'yoyetz HaMelech. So what did Yerovim come up with an idea? Let me keep Klal Yisrael away from being Oyla Regel, so they won't see this. You don't need to go to Yerushalayim. These are your getchkas, Asher Alucha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. V'yosem Zechad B'Veisel, which was in the lower half of Eretz Yisrael. V'echad Nosam Bedon in the northern of Eretz Yisrael, and that's what he did. My v'yoyitz, he had upside Eitzah. What was a special Eitzah, the special twist? It should have just said he did this. V'yoyitz, it sounds like there's a special twist over here. Amar Yehuda. This is how he pulled it off. How is he going to get everybody to avoid this horror? We had an Erlich nation. They were following David, and suddenly Pope is going to get him to do it. So he had to come up with a plan. So what he did was he took a Russia and he put him together with a great big tzaddik. Amar Lahu, he said, Chasimusu, I want you to sign the following document. I'll call Davidna. I want you to sign that you agree with everything that I do as a new king. Amar Lahin, they said, sure, no problem. So Amalu, then he said, Malka be'ina l'mahabe, I want to be a king. I want to be the king. Amalu, they told him, hey, no problem. Then he said, Kol damina l'chu, aviditu. I want you to say that you're going to do whatever I say. And he was having them sign. So far, it seemed pretty benign. Amrullah, he said, yes. And then he said, I even want you to listen to me if I would tell you to do avodah zarah. And he's trying to get the tzaddik to sign on it. So right away, Amalei tzaddik chas v'sholom, the tzaddik that I can't sign. Amalei Rashi l'tzadik. So the Rashi told the tzaddik to fool the tzaddik. So kedaydach the gaver kiravim holach avodas kachavim. He doesn't really mean he's going to ask you to do avodas zarah. He would never ask you to do avodas zarah. He's a choshev yid. He's Yeravim ben Nevat. Ella, all he wants to see is how loyal you are. Ella leminsinu hu de kaboy. He kabil to the memory. He just wants to see how loyal you are. So you could sign it because he's not really going to ask you to do that. He just wants to see a tremendous vote of support. Even Achia Shiloini, who Rashi says who was a great yid, he also fell for that scam, and they tried to get him to sign as well. And he also signed. The Yehu Tzadika Rabba Hava. Yehu was a great tzaddik. Shnei Avayim Hashem al Yehu Yan Asher Ativoisa Lasos Hayosher Be'enai Kachol Asher Bilvavi Asisa Lebeis Achov B'nei. So therefore, B'nei Reviim Yeshulach Al Kisa Yisrael. You're going to have Ireinach that are going to be on Kisa Yisrael. Uchsiv v'Yehu Loi Shamar Leleches B'Torah Hashem Alekei Yisrael. And then it says Yehu didn't follow Hashem. He was such a great person, and now suddenly doing about Yisrael. And it says, he didn't take away the avodah zarah that Yeravam made. My Garmaloi, why didn't he do it? It's because there's a bris that is ma'amis the words of a tzaddik. Achav, Eved Habal Ma'at. Achav said, I did a little bit of avodah zarah. Yehu Yavdani Harbe. Yehu, so Yehu said, Achav, you did it a little bit, I'm going to do it a lot. That was the words that he said. And since he said it, that's what caused him to do it. But Rabbi didn't shout. Since Yehu saw that Achia Shiloni signed, and we just learned because he was scammed into signing, that allowed Yehu to go do this avodah zarah. Okay, we'll stop here and we will not come on. Okay, what's the name of today's share?